Sometimes we put a lot of effort into designing our pages on our website, and we want to be able to design the sections on the page using the full width of the page, so we can achieve something like this. For example, on our homepage. But other times, we don't really need to go and do a really extravagant design. We would rather get the content into the page. For example, something like this, where the content is centered on the page, it has a max width, and we can just focus on writing the content and focus more on the words that we're saying, rather than sit there and try and make it look pretty when it's not really necessary. Other examples of where you might use a design that's similar to this, where you don't really need to go and design the full width of the page, could be pages as simple as your privacy policy, where you're just whacking a bit of text on the page. It could be something like your contact page, where you really only want to have a few things on the page and you don't want to spend heaps of time trying to design it. Or even another inner page like your about page, or what I have on my website, my tools page, which lists my affiliate URLs and the software that I recommend and use to build my websites. So this is a very common thing that you probably want to know how to do inside of your Cwicly website. And so that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Here's what we're going to set up. In our website, I'm first going to show you how to create 2 different templates inside of Cwicly. Your first template is going to be this default template, and we're going to call this layout 1, and this is where the content of your page or post is contained with a max width. As your default layout, you can focus on writing into your page, and your items will be automatically spaced out. Your headings will have more spacing above them to better separate the content on the page and make it easier to read. Once we go and set that up, I'm going to show you how to create a custom template where you can go on a per page and per post basis, elect to use this template here where you can design using full width sections on your page. And the way that you'll be able to choose in your website between using the default contained layout or forcing it to be the full width layout is by adding a new template here that you can select to choose your full width layout, again on a per page or per post basis. And with that method where we create 2 different templates, you will have your single template, which is your contained content, and then we have our custom page template where you can select from the drop down, and that allows you to design your page using the full width area. Once I show you how to set that up, we're going to combine both of those layouts into the one template. This is what I use in my website. To do that, we'll be creating a new custom field using the Advanced Custom Fields plugin that comes bundled and is included with Cwicly out of the box. So we'll create a checkbox here, and then when you're creating a post or a page, if that checkbox is not selected, it will use your default layout here where the content is contained. But if you want to design the full width of the page, you can select this checkbox, click Save, and then you can design using the full width of the page. As an example, here with this page, if we don't have this selected and we click Save, on the front end, it looks like this, which is obviously not what we want for this particular page, but that's the default layout. But if we come back here and enable the full width content and click Update, now our content stretches the full width of the page and is what we want. Now, the way that we control the content's width from being contained to full width based on when we check or uncheck this checkbox is by editing our single template inside of Cwicly and adding conditions on some elements where we check the value of that advanced custom field. As part of this process, we'll also be going to Cwicly and Thema. And for our single template, we'll be setting some conditions here for our single template where we apply it to our pages. And this is a very important step to understand. If we go to WordPress's website and click on Template Hierarchy and scroll down a little bit, there's a flowchart that explains what template is loaded in WordPress for a specific page. And I'm going to show you how this works and how to interpret it, because you need to know this to be able to best use these visibility conditions on your templates inside of Cwicly. So definitely stick around for that part if that sounds interesting to you. So let's get into creating our first layout, which is the contained content. So on my screen is a beautiful diagram that I've spent the majority of the last 15 minutes putting together to best explain what we're about to go through. Another resource that we're going to reference is on the WordPress.org website. If we search up here for template hierarchy and click into this first link here and scroll down, we want to open this in a new tab. And this diagram shows us the order that templates are loaded inside of WordPress. And this is going to be important for when we go ahead and create our templates in Cwicly. The third and final thing that I recommend you install for today's video is a plugin. So go to Plugins and Add New. Search for Query Monitor. And you want to install this one here by John Blackburn. 100,000 installs, 5-star reviews. I already have this installed and activated. And once you've gone ahead and done that, you should see this new admin item up here. that gives you a list of things that we're going to reference in today's video. Exactly what this plugin does will make a lot more sense as we go through today's video, so I'm not going to go ahead and explain that just yet. So now let's get into creating our first template, which, if we have a look at the diagram here, our first default template is our single.php template, and that is our layout with the contained content. So to create our template in our WordPress dashboard, let's go to Cwicly and then Thema, and then click Default and Add New. And there's two main options that you'll be choosing from at this point, whether or not to create a single template or a page template. If we have a look at the template hierarchy, the single.php affects your single blog posts and your single custom post types, but your pages use the page.php, which is separate. So it's basically your blog posts and everything else is using your single.php, and then your pages are on their own with their own template. But what's unique to Cwicly is that if we were to go and choose single template here, and by default, a new template takes on your layout of your index template. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this, and then let's add another section here, which has a container automatically, drag it up above the footer, and then in here, let's insert a post content block, so content. If we give this section a background color, just so we can see what it's doing on the front end of our website, maybe a light blue, and save and save. If we go to the front end of our website and go to our blog page and click into a blog post, you can see that down here, it's output our post content, so the content of this blog post in the section with the blue background. And if we have a look up here, this is something that Cwicly gives us on the front end. It shows us what template we're using, and we're using the single template. Also, if we have a look here and hover on here, this is that Query Monitor plugin that we installed previously. It adds this up here, and it gives us a lot of information that's very helpful for us. If we go down here under template, it shows us all the different templates and in what order WordPress was trying to load to render this page. So it tried to go with the index.php, and then it goes singular.php, and then it goes single.php. And if we compare that to the WordPress template hierarchy, index.php, singular.php, single.php. And then by default, WordPress would keep going up. So it would go single hyphen, and then the post type. So the post type here is post, so single hyphen post. And then it would go single hyphen post hyphen, and then the slug of this post. And if we compare back here, above single was the single hyphen post.php, so the post type. And then above that, the single hyphen post hyphen, and then the slug of that post, single hyphen post hyphen, and then the slug of this post. So as you can see, this is the order that WordPress tries to render this current URL, but it's letting us know that it stopped at the single template, which was down here. So it got as far as there. So we know that our blog posts are being affected by this template here. If we were to pull this down and we go up to our pages, which is tools, we can see that this is using the index.php template. And if we have a look at Query Monitor, when you try and render a page in WordPress, it looks for index, then singular, then page hyphen, and then the ID of the page, and then page hyphen and the slug. Back here, index, singular, page ID, page hyphen, and then the slug. So I wanted to show you that because we've looked at everything here, and we can confidently say, as expected, as WordPress works like this, that our pages are not affected by our single template. But here's how you can sort of tweak that using Cwicly. If we get out of editing our template here, so we get out of the full site editor, and then we go down to Cwicly and to Thema, our single template here, we can click on here, visibility conditions, and we could click to add a condition, and here we could do show if it's a singular page, all pages. So now if we come back to our page and reload, it goes from index to single. And you can see that our post content has been output in the section with the blue background. And again, I don't think I made this clear enough, but what is happening down here is not what is loading on this page right now. This is just Query Monitor's way of explaining this flowchart without you having to come and open up this flowchart and see how it works. Query Monitor just says, for this URL, which is a page, WordPress loads in this particular order, but currently it's loading with this template here. But now that we've gone ahead and applied this condition here in Cwicly for our single template to apply it to our pages, back here in that flowchart, it was going index, singular, page, and then it comes up here, but single's over here. So the single template doesn't by default actually be used to render our pages. It doesn't even come into the equation. And again, we can see that down here on our page, as it's going through how pages are loaded, this URL is using the single template, but that's not actually listed here. So that's why some of these themes that we use are a little bit different, because they override some of the ways that WordPress works out of the box to make our lives a little bit easier. And this is one case where we can create a single template, but then have that apply to all of our custom post types, our blog posts, and our pages, even though WordPress wasn't meant to work that way. The benefit of doing that is that we can just manage one single template or two single templates and not have to duplicate them just for pages if we want our pages to look the same as our posts and custom post types. So now that we have that single template applying to our pages, if we go back to our blog page and we go into a blog post, this is still using the single template here. So back here in conditions, on this single template, we're saying show it if it is pages, but then it's also being used as a single template outside of these conditions. To be honest, I don't know if I expected that. I thought maybe I would need to come back in here and add single posts, but sometimes you just need to test these things to know specifically how Cwicly in particular handles this thing in our website. Maybe other ones handle it differently, but in Cwicly, just know that your single template is still used irrespective of the conditions here. We're sort of adding on to the default WordPress templating hierarchy and saying, do whatever the single template does, but then also show it here for our pages. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and edit this single template again. And I'll scale this down so we can see what we're doing. Let's collapse our template parts and just look at our post content. So coming back to our layout here, which is the default one, the green is going to be a section, and then the light blue is going to be a container. And then inside the container, we add our post content. So let's go ahead and set that up. So our section is that green. So I might even go ahead and make it match my diagram. So that's going to be green for the section. This container here is going to be a light blue color, like so. So if I save this and save, and I'll exit out of Query Monitor and just reload the page here, this is what that currently looks like. So for our container, let's now go and make it a little bit more narrow and give it a max width. So here I'll click on my container, and here I'll create a global CSS class. And if you're using Cwicly already, I just haven't got used to virtual classes yet. I definitely need to play with them a bit more, but for me, this makes more sense right now. So here I'll write container, content contained, press enter. And then under design and sizing, let's give it a max width. You could do whatever you want here. 55 rems would be an example. In my website, I have a variable set up as max width content, and I think that is 55 rems. So now if we save and come back and reload, now it's a bit easier to read and centered on the page. Now the next thing that we need to do is add some padding here around our post content. Whatever you add to your post content block here, so the CSS, comes into the editor when you're actually editing the content for that post. So let me show you what I mean. If we don't add any CSS to this post content block, and it's applying to our blog post, if I come to this blog post and I click edit post, in the editor here, you can see the post content has no padding around it. And that obviously makes it a little bit hard to write. So let's go back into our editor, and on our post content block, I'll add a new CSS class, and let's call this post content spaced and press enter. And then with my class selected, I'll go to design and then margin and padding. And here we could add 1 rem, 2 rem. I'm just going to use my size medium padding. And then if we save, on the front end, if I reload, we now have our spacing around. And in the editor, if I reload, we now have spacing around the content. If we were to remove this CSS class here, so the post content has no padding, and put that on the container. So here we went to margin and padding, and I add that same size medium padding, and we save. On the front end, there's no difference there. But on the back end, if we reload, you'll notice that the post content doesn't get that padding copied across because it was set on the container, but the styles only load whatever was set on the post content. So let's go ahead and remove that from the container and add the CSS class back onto our post content. So post content space and save. So now this has our padding and the front end has our padding as well. So the next thing that we need to do is add some spacing between the elements here, because on the front end, these are paragraphs and there's no spacing between the paragraphs. And here in the editor, there's no spacing between the paragraphs. And we really want it to work like my diagram here, where we add a paragraph, there's a bit of space, paragraph, there's a bit of space. When we add headings, we add more space between the heading and the element that came before it. So to best show you this, let's go to another blog post with a bit more content, like this one here, where if we scroll down, you'll be able to notice the headings don't have any spacing. None of these paragraphs have spacing. So it definitely needs a bit of work here, but it's very easy to set up the spacing. So let's go ahead and edit this post so we can see what we're working with in the editor. And then back here, editing our single template with our post content block, let's click to edit this CSS class. And then let's go to design and layout. And here we'll do flex, flex column, flex start. And then down here for the row gap, I'll add my size medium. So let's save and save. And then back on the front end, if we reload, you can see that we have some spacing between all of our elements now, and it's starting to come together. Now let's go ahead and add more spacing before our headings. So to do that, while editing our global CSS class, let's go to the Advanced tab. And then down here, we're going to write a little bit of CSS. So here, I'll go global CSS class, and then let's target a direct child. So whenever something plus a h2. So inside of our post content block, whenever a h2 follows another element, we want to add a margin top of whatever you want. I'll just do size extra large. And let's also do that for our h3s. And then here for our h4s and 5s, maybe we want to just make this a large, so a little bit smaller. Let's save and save. So now back here, if we reload, so now on the front end, whenever our h2 follows another element, we add more space before it. And if we go down, we should be able to see that in a couple of examples. So there as well. And in case you've never used a global class selector before, at runtime, it just gets this CSS class here and replaces it down here. So the actual CSS file that is generated by Cwicly when I save this page says that, and that. So click save, finds global.css class and replaces it with whatever is selected up here. You'll also notice that everything that we've added here to this global CSS class that is applied to the post content block has carried into our editor as we expected. So the heading here has more space before it, and then the paragraphs under that have less spacing than before the header. The next thing that we need to do for this layout here is consider the padding on the section and how that affects the padding on the post content, because we're doubling up here. So if we click on our section and I get rid of this green background, and then we go to the container and I get rid of the blue background, and we save and reload the front end, it looks fine here. But if we go and inspect element and in responsive mode have a look, we're getting a lot of padding on the left and right. We're actually doubling up the amount of padding that I want to have in this website. And if we have a look at why that is occurring, if we go up, we have our post content block where we added the size medium padding all around it. And again, we need to have this padding on the post content block so that it gets carried into the editor here. But if we go up to the section here, our sections by default in Cwicly are set to have these default padding values, extra large on top and bottom and medium on the left and the right. So for this particular layout, we actually want to get rid of this padding here. So there's a couple of different ways that we could do that. One way would be to click on the section and then click here, create a new global CSS class, section content contained. And then under the margin and padding, we could set 0 on the left and 0 on the right. Click save and save. Now, if we come back and reload, we have the exact padding on the left and right that we want. And also in the editor, if we reload, we still maintain our padding on the post content here in the editor. So with a couple of small tweaks, I reckon you could get layout 1 completed in your website exactly how you want it from what we've just covered. Let's now go ahead and set up layout 2, which is the full width post content layout. Now, whereas the first layout was our single.php template, this is going to be a custom template that we can then apply on a per page or per post basis. To create a custom template in Cwicly, scroll down to Cwicly and then Thema. And where we clicked on default to create our single template, we're going to click on custom in this example. And here I'll say full width content and click create. And then I'll edit this template. And here we'll add our header and choose and select our default header. Then we'll add our footer. So footer, choose and select our footer. And then in between our header and footer, we need to add our post content, which is this block here. And I'll drag that in there. And the key here is to not put this post content block in a section or a container, because when you're going and applying this template, you'll be creating your sections and containers in that specific post or page. So this is all we need to do for this template. So let's go ahead and save and save. And then to use that template in the future, we can just click to add a new page. And then I'll just insert one of Cwicly's out of the box templates. So we'll go to popular, select this one here and exit out of that and just get rid of this header. So this is our layout here. And then we could go publish. And now if we view that on the front end, this is using our single template that we set up before with the contained post content. So this is what it looks like here. But we obviously want to use our full width template. So to apply that, here we would go up to there and then page, and then under template, if we click here, we have our full width content. So now if we update this and then reload this page, now we're designing the full width of the page, which is exactly what we wanted. And by the way, I really like this layout. Actually, I haven't seen it before. So that's how we could design full width pages if we went and added a new blog post. So here, if we add a section, and then inside here, we added a heading like that. We wrote a bit of text maybe. And then for this section, we gave it a background color of our green. If we go to post, it shows us that this is currently using the single template by default, which has our contained content. So if I save this and we view this post on the front end, by default, we can write our blog post using the contained layout. And just like we saw with the pages, if we want to swap it to the full width content, we could just come into here and then select our full width content template, update, and then back here, reload. And now we're designing the full width of the page. So we've looked at how we accomplish these two layouts using two different templates, the single template and a custom template. But if you recall at the start of today's video, I said that I actually only use the one template in my website, but then use conditions to achieve these two different layouts using the one template. So let me show you how I have that set up in my website in case you want to do that as well. Here in my dashboard, I'll go down to Cwicly and then Thema, and I'll delete this full width content template because we don't need it anymore. Next, I'll edit my single template. And if we expand this section here that has our contained layout, I'll rename this section contained, so it's easier for us to follow along today. Now we need to go and add a post content block from Cwicly and drag that under here. And this is going to be our full width content. So if I was to save this now, we have two different post content blocks on the page, and our contained content is above our full width. So if I come back here and reload, on the front end, we can see that we're outputting the contained post content here, and then under that, we have the full width. So we're doubling up there, but we are getting those two output on the front end. And now we just need to go and set up some conditional logic to only show one of these post content blocks under a specific condition. And to do that, we're going to set up a custom field. In our dashboard, I'll scroll down, and under ACF, I'll click on Field Groups. This takes us into the Advanced Custom Fields plugin, and what's really good about Cwicly is that it includes Advanced Custom Fields Pro inside its plugin. So you should definitely have access to this in your Cwicly install. Let's go ahead and add a new field group, and here I'll name this Post Layout. And then here for the field, let's go ahead and add a checkbox field. And the field label, let's call this Post Layout Customizations. And then here for the field name, I like to add a C underscore at the start so that I know I've registered this custom field myself and it's not from a plugin. Just helps with troubleshooting sometimes. And for the choices, we'll follow this format down here where we add a value, then the colon, and then the label. So here we'll add the value and then a colon. And then we'd add our label content for width, which is what shows in the admin area. And you'll see that in just a second. We don't want to set a default value here. The value is what we want to return. There's a couple of other tabs here, validation. It's not required. We don't really care about presentation here, and the conditional logic isn't needed for this field. If we collapse this and go down, under location rules, let's show this if the post type is a post or the post type is a page. And then under presentation, I like to show these on the side. I'll click Save Changes. So now if we go and edit that page where we inserted the out-of-the-box Cwicly template, which was this one here that we looked at previously today, if I go into Settings and then under Page and scroll down, you can see my new field group is Post Layout. Then we have the title of the field, Post Layout Customizations, and then our new checkbox here where we can enable this. If we go and have a look at this on the front end, and if we go down, you can see there's our contained post content. And if we go under that, we will see our full width content, which is here. If we go back and enable our option here and update, and in doing that, we're specifying that for this particular page, we only want to use the full width post content. If we go to the front end and reload, we're still seeing that contained content there. And that's because we haven't actually set up conditions in our template to only show our content based on the value of that advanced custom field. So let's go ahead and do that. So back here under Cwicly and Thema, let's go ahead and edit our single template. Let's click on the section that contains our post content that is contained. And then we'll go over to conditions. And then here we'll click the plus sign to add a condition. And then here we will select ACF for the advanced custom fields. And then here for the field group, it is the post layout. And the field is post layout customizations. And we want to grab the value of this field from the current post. So I'll select current post. And here we will select if it does not contain. And we'll get the value from here and paste that in there. So what we've just done is when we come into a post or a page or something in our website and we select this checkbox, what we're really doing behind the scenes is setting this checkbox to have the value of this. And then here we're saying for this section, only output this section if it does not contain this. But when we check that box, it does contain it. So if we check the box, this is not output. So now all we need to do is go and add the inverse of this condition down here. So here we can click on copy conditions, then click on the post content full width, then go to conditions and then paste conditions. And then I'll press Command V and that autofills it. And now we only want to show this if it does contain. So here it contains content full width. So now let's save and save. And because this page currently has this selected, on the front end for that page, the contained content is not output, and we only see the full width content that is under it, like this. If we uncheck this and click update and reload, now we see the contained content up the top, and under that, the full width content is not output on the page. Now, the last thing that I want to do here for this particular layout is that for the contained content here, I like that the post title is output at the top of the page, but when we're designing full width like this, I think it's better that we don't output this on the page. So let's go ahead and set that up. So to do that is very easy. We just copy the conditions from here and paste them onto our post title template part. So here to copy the conditions, I'll click over to here and then copy, and then I'll open up this template part and click on our section here and then go to conditions. And I will click on paste conditions and then Command V and click enable. So now our post title will only show if that checkbox does not contain this, i.e. it's not selected. So let's go save and save. And then on the front end, let's reload. Now our full width content does not have that post title output. But if we don't select this and update and reload, now it is output just for our contained content. To learn more about WordPress templates and using Cwicly to build your website, I would definitely recommend watching this video here, set up Cwicly templates using the full site editor. That video is also on your screen right now, so click here to watch that video now. And don't forget to check out all the videos in my Cwicly playlist. I'm going to link that in the description below as well.